these fucking Chiefs. Dan, play the music. Welcome in to another episode of the Blues for Brothers. I'm your host, Kyle Poland, joined as always by my brother, Ryan Poland. We are here after the Nuggets can't lose and the Broncos...
Neither can the Chiefs.
Yeah, the Broncos, I guess they won while losing because it kind of feels like that's how the fans are doing it.
Kyle. That's what losers say.
Well, that's what we are, so it makes sense. Let's start with the positives, though, Ryan. To give people a breakdown here, we're going to go we're starting with the good. We got the Nuggets. Then we're going to go a little Buffs talk here. We haven't done tons of Buffs talk. I thought, to be honest, they were going to be kind of in that middle where it's like, hey, they're bowl eligible and every bowl would love to find an excuse to get Dion to come until they realize that none of the Buffs are going to play in that bowl. But they just kind of keep winning, and they're kind of getting close to being playoff eligible, and all these teams in the SEC have to keep playing each other, and so they're just going to keep taking a loss here or there. So we're going to talk about them, and then we'll get into Broncos. Then we'll do our NFL picks. We'll discuss the terrible bias by Dan celebrating Ryan's victories on the threads out there. I will make my impassioned case for nullifying that and rightfully giving me a 3-0 week. And eliminating the kicker position from the sport. So that's something to look forward to in that. But let's start with the Nuggets, Ryan. Because the NBA is really stupid, the Nuggets have played Sunday and had an all-time barn burner, and there was so much fun momentum around the team. And now they got a bye, kind of, in the opening of the NBA Cup. And so we don't play till Friday, which for this week, I'm not complaining, but it does seem stupid that the Nuggets played 4 games in 6 nights, and now have played 1 in the same amount of nights. But you know what? That's fine. That's just fine, Ryan. Wanted to talk about the sustainability of this run, because I do think that's important. With this 5-0 on the homestand, key thing being homestand, right? Mavericks, obviously a quality win, but other opponents, the Eastern Conference, right? Some not good teams came through there. So not super quality, but it does feel like this has given the Nuggets a lot of confidence. We've gotten a lot of reps for players. But I know we kind of touched on a lot of that stuff in last week's episode, and with only 1 game, I just kind of wanted to see, what are you kind of looking for as the Nuggets embark on this road trip that has winnable games? You have Pelicans, then you have back-to-back with Memphis. Obviously, no Ja for Memphis. No Zion, no McCollum, no DeJounte Murray for the Pelicans. I think Herb Jones is still out, too.
The Pelicans were frisky tonight, though.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
They're
So you're right to point out that they're winnable games, but they're still in the West. So
yep. They're on the road, and we're a young team and no AG. This is just where it's a lot easier for Peyton Watson to hit threes at home when everyone's cheering for you and all that good jazz than when you're on the road and things aren't going perfectly for you. So to me, this is kind of a weirdly interesting test for this team. And just another kind of check mark for a young team. What are you looking for? Where are you at confidence-wise with this team? And what are you looking forward to here on the road?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question. I think you're starting in the right place with the role players. I'm always going to be looking in their direction, right? We have known quantities, right? Nikola Jokic, I'm just going to have my Jokic-gasm early here. He is operating on a different level. Like, I was at the game on I guess
Sunday.
what Sunday
Yep.
with Bradley, our brother-in-law, and I turned to him and I was like, every year, I mean, we've had season tickets now for 6 years, right? 5 years, 4 years,
I don't know.
five.
I think you're right on 5.
How old are
I don't
you?
know. 30. Yeah, 35. You're right.
Yeah, it's going to be 6 years.
Yeah.
So it's every year I'm assuming that like, oh, okay, we've sort of seen peak Jokic. Like there's not much that he can get better at. And he proves me wrong every year. And he's proving us wrong again this year. I mean, he's shooting 56% from three. Like, what are we talking about? Like, what is happening? The man is averaging. He's leading the league or he was when I checked this last in assists and rebounds. Like, he's a 7-foot magician, and so I am not here to limit anything that this team can do because we have such a transcendent player. But to go back to the point of what I'm watching on this particular road trip, I think it does come down to those role players. Like, do we see growth in Peyton Watson or even Julian Strother or shit? I mean, we've seen some Zeke Naji, like any Hunter Tyson, like any of these people that sort of have been in that rotation, but in the outer realms of the planetary fortress that is Jokic. You just have to see something continue to go right. And I think for Peyton in particular, he's a perfect person to talk about because I think he's the most linchpin type of player where, like, if he's really clicking, we look pretty fucking unstoppable. Because if he's shooting threes and playing defense, you can't sag off of him. Like, if you hypothetically just plug him into the starting lineup for Christian Brown in crunch time when we need a bigger switchable defender to help off of these, wings and stuff that are all over the wing guard Lucas, what we saw on Sunday, like that sort of stuff compounds. And I think he's got to start on the defensive end. And if he does, I think the offense will follow him on the road. I'm a little worried that he's going to start to try to force things on the offensive end on the road and let the defense sag a little bit. And Malone isn't going to stand for that. So if we see the latter of that, the good version of that, I think it says a lot about the team, and my confidence level goes way up. Because to me, if Peyton can use these AG minutes that are open to get comfortable, we're very dangerous. But I'm cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's coincidence that the Jokic assist numbers have been so insane with Peyton and Christian starting to shoot well from three.
Yeah.
Like, they're just going to get open threes, and teams, especially after the initial kind of week of panic, teams have said, okay, we're going to go back to defending Jokic how we did versus Facu, versus those teams where we say, we absolutely know you're going to make the right decision. And the right decision is to throw it to this guy who's wide open at the three. And we believe he is going to clank that bitch off the rim, and we can get a board, and that'll be fine. And that's why you're seeing some of these silly assist numbers of like 17 assists, 18 assists, because they're giving up shots that would get you benched. Like if you gave them up most of the time in the NBA. It's like, hey, you're letting this guy walk into a three or get a wide open corner three. But teams
or if you're Christian
like,
Brown,
hey, we're going to let those guys shoot those right now. And so I'm also interested to see how teams choose to defend this, right? Because there's a chance that a team says, okay, you did it at home, prove it to me here. And they continue that. And then if you can knock those down, now we're going to get back to teams saying, all right, I guess Jokic is an unbelievable creator. He is going to score 40 on us if we single cover, but we would rather him score 40 than him let Christian and Peyton and those guys get going, because it's going to be unbeatable if everyone starts clicking. Because you can just see like the confidence and the vibes and all of that is there. And so
I was
much
just
of
going to
that
say the
came from
confidence,
Jokic that they were able to eat that Kyrie shots. Those Kyrie shots were backbreakers. That dude was on a different planet and was hitting that 15-footer he hit over Peyton Watson when he played the most perfect defense, and he's long and he's bigger, and he just said, yeah, I'm going to bank this in, no problem.
It was
Jokic
the first night I've ever
scored.
seen Kyrie be so dominant like that. And you hear that he's like the Hooper's Hooper, right? Like everybody who knows basketball is like, Kyrie is filthy. And to me, it was the first time outside of maybe like Cleveland Kyrie when he hit the huge shots in the playoffs. Like he was filthy back then, but he was so young. Like it was new and kind of weird. And he seemed so small back then. He still seems small. And I've never seen shot like it was Kobe-esque. Like just you can do whatever you want. You can put your hand on me. You can do whatever you want, but I'm gonna get this shot. So I think it's my optimism is very high right now. Because to just wrap it up with this, I guess we got to move on. But to go back to what you said about confidence, Christian is such a confidence player. Like all he needs is to see one or two go in. And he starts carrying himself different, like on both ends of the floor. And it's not, I'm not looking for, we don't need him to be shooting a bunch of threes. We just need him to be making a respectable rate of the ones he does get and the ones that he's going to get that are wide open. So I think it's very good that they're getting these reps together now and that they're succeeding in that, because I think once AG comes back, like those minutes get limited and you don't get the same rhythm. Like, and I think Peyton getting these minutes is big. So the fact that we're winning games is sort of a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, if you go 70% through the whole season, you'll be just fine in the end of it. If you just go 7-3, 7-3, 7-3, 7-3, by the time you get to 82, you'll be all right in the end there. Yeah, I guess interesting thing here. I think you saw the sacrifice that we made with Kyrie. Quick guards going to be a problem. Christian just isn't quite the same foot speed guy that KCP was. He presents more physicality, but you could just see like Kyrie's speed really bothered him, and quickness was hard for him to deal with. And so I'll be interested to see. It almost feels like Watson is a better option against the quick guards, because I think he's just as quick as Christian, and obviously he just has a little more length, and they're both freakish athletes. So it'll be interesting to see if that, like you said, is a way for him to also get minutes in those, like, okay, we're going to play AG, and it's not that this team is big, it's that we want you to kind of smother this shooter or this guard to where we're not going to get lit up by, this guard that can just shoot the hell out of the ball. We want you closing out on them and them thinking about it all the time, right? So I definitely think this is an impressive thing that I saw mental toughness-wise with the shots. Those Kyrie shots, I think they sink a team a lot of the time. And you just go, it's not our night with those. And so I'm interested to see that in a hostile environment, because Brandon Ingram is someone who can do that, right? Like he has smoked the Nuggets before, and he's a guy that can just hit shots where you just go, oh, jeez, it's not our night.
It might be an audition if you believe the hoops hype.
That we're getting Ingram?
Yeah.
Wow. What? I hadn't heard
Well,
this rumor. What is it? Or
well, I
just that
don't
he's
think.
getting traded?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
he's getting traded, and I think the Nuggets have been a team that people have been like, well, he fits, and could they, if they wanted to get off of one of these guys, do they take a? It's the worst idea
Yeah,
possible to
yeah,
me.
yeah,
It
no,
sounds
no,
awful. I
no,
don't want anything to do with it, to be
no.
clear, but that has been, I think, floated by people that don't know anything. So
Yeah.
I was just trying to stir the pot.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I mean, if they want Zeke Naji, Dario Saric, and we'll throw in Pickett. All right, we will throw in Jalen Pickett.
I don't think those salaries match up,
He put
unfortunately.
quite a show on in the G League. Jalen did. So if they want those three, they can have them. But
Did Dario, like, what do you think he did?
so with Saric, I just think he's a bad match with Westbrook in terms of. I didn't realize before a lot of his skills are based off of being able to be in a spot where he can at least make decisions, right? It's not that Saric has had the ball in his hands all the time for quite a long time, but the Warriors run a system where it's not like they were asking him to roll all the time. And with Westbrook, we really want the ball in the hands of Westbrook, and we need you to spot up and shoot, or be able to be a rim threat. And for better or worse, you kind of floated. There might be some health stuff. I don't know. Like those corner threes were looking very ugly.
Yeah.
And then he looked really uncomfortable with just hard rolling. And
It was
so,
also 2 games into the season, though. Like, we know the guy has talent and he can't buy a minute. Like, he's not getting in garbage time at this point. Like, I recognize that at a certain point it's insulting to his talent to put him out there in garbage time, but like, I kind of want to see, like, I just don't know what happened. Like, he's supposed to be a good, at least, role player in the NBA. Like,
I mean, I think
hypothetically, right?
his plan was, I mean, good might be stretching it, right?
Well,
I
not
think
good, but
he's
you know what I
definitely,
mean. He's a role player.
he's a
He can
minutes
play
eater. He's a
minutes.
regular season minutes eater. And I
Yeah.
think part of it has been Hunter Tyson has been eating minutes. And I think Malone is very much in the path of, I don't care who eats these minutes. And we've seen with Malone before, when he finds a guy that he thinks, oh, this guy is doing the things I ask him to do, and he's eating the minutes, in the way I want them done, then he's just you can get a pretty long leash with Malone, and you can get buried pretty hard. And right here, we've seen it. Saric is buried. And that's, like you said, I think there's a world in which he could have been helpful, and there's a world in which he might get another opportunity due to injury, due to wear and tear of the year, and he may be more comfortable and feel better about it. I hope that's the case, and because anytime you have more weapons and more options of how to play basketball, I think that's great, and I think Saric gives you more weapons than a Zeke Naji or a DJ when it comes to like game planning in a series. So I think his like ceiling is higher for that sort of a thing. But, here we are. Right now, every minute of basketball I've watched him play has been terrible this season. And
But how many
I'm not going to
minutes
sit
has
here
that
and
been?
cry too many tears for someone who has been aggressively bad every time. And the other thing is, and I think we mentioned this on the last podcast, but like, we have bodies to eat minutes for Dario Saric. Unless you are the largest Trey Alexander believer in the world, we don't really have someone to eat minutes for Russell Westbrook. So that means you need to be able to play Russell Westbrook's style.
I don't even think Trey Alexander believes Trey Alexander that much.
He's like, Coach, I mean, honestly, 5 minutes is a lot. It's a lot out there. Yeah.
They move so fast, Coach.
Yeah.
Do you see him out there, Coach?
And you talk about not believing in someone. Like, I mean, it is telling, all jokes aside, that Jalen Pickett went down to the G League and not Trey Alexander, right? Like, and that was with Murray out. Like,
I
so
think
there
that
were very real potential of like, oh, Russ gets thrown out or Russ does that. We're playing Trey Alexander.
I
Like,
do think that there's a little bit of that that's like trade bait. Like we want this guy to blow up the G League so that when we throw him into a trade, it's not like nobody's seen him play in 3 months. Like he doesn't have any real value, but he's definitely going to be thrown into something at some
yeah.
point for the Nuggets. Like
And he's a
he's
cost
not going to,
controlled asset if you can
yeah.
talk yourself into him.
And he
And
can shoot the shit out of the ball. Like the guy can shoot the ball. He just,
it's very weird release and
yeah,
takes a bit to get off.
and he's got that Andre Miller back down to get it. So
But if you'd have
it's a
told
tough.
me Jay Huff was going to be off of a two-way contract this year, I wouldn't have believed
Listen,
you there
man,
either.
I'm not happy about that.
Change of scenery and that kind of stuff just hits right, and people are being used differently. Or you're being asked to do things that you're better at, and it works out.
I'm
The
not happy
Nuggets
about Jay
don't
Huff.
have a great track record of, you've talked about it, but the young player development, there have been a lot of guys we've let go and have gone on to make themselves plenty of money elsewhere.
I went on a rant. Were you at this game? I went on a rant at the game at another fan I was complaining about Michael Malone not developing talent, and he was like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean? He's got two generational talents in Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. And who else has he developed exactly? I'm confused. Like, who's really getting better at something in their
You got to give
career?
him credit for Porter playing basketball the right way, because there's another version of Michael Porter that exists on a
He won a
Detroit
championship,
Pistons
though.
team that shoots the absolute. He's like Cam Thomas, right? Like he's just shooting the ball
But the
every
team
time
was
down.
good. The team was good, though, Kyle. Like when
Oh
he,
yeah,
when
no.
he came,
I'm just
when he
saying,
came
like some of
out
that development, you got to give him some credit for
no,
setting that culture.
you give the team credit for that. You give Nikola Jokic credit for that because the team was good enough that he didn't have a choice. It was so clear to everybody in practice, in games, even to Michael Porter's delusional ass, that this guy should have the ball more than him. So,
Yeah,
like,
I'm just
he doesn't get
saying.
credit for that. That's
I think
not
he should
Michael
get credit.
Malone's influence. I just don't believe
I
it. I
I
think Michael
think
Malone is a very good coach for a young team who's looking to get somewhere. I think he got extremely lucky in that he has the most unselfish and perfect superstar for him to be a crazy motherfucker and nobody really say anything about it.
And on that note, congratulations for him when he passes Doug Moe as the winningest coach of all time in Nuggets history. Way to
Yeah.
suck it up out there, Mike.
I'm not saying
You're
he
the
sucks. I'm
worst.
saying he's a
No,
good coach.
no. I mean, listen.
I think his
People
message
talk
gets
about his
stale.
limitations. I think some of it is overstated, and some of it is like just like how we get spoiled with Jokic. And I was thinking about this too Sunday, where I was like, God, like it's gonna hurt so bad to watch stupid basketball again when it comes, because it is gonna come. But like,
I
and
thought
I
I
think it's
had
the
a
same thing with Malone, where like people are like, well, of course you have to play unselfishly with Jokic. I'm like, yeah, look at the Rockets. They have Albert Sengun. No, you very don't. Like, you have to play defense. You have to do. No, you very don't. There are a lot of teams in the NBA that don't play any fucking defense, that have young guys that don't try hard at all, and their
yeah.
coaches do not have aneurysms. Mike
I
Malone
I
has an aneurysm. So, like, there is some of that where, like, we've grown to love it, and it's, like, endearing, and it's funny when it's, like, we're like, oh, my God, they didn't get 2 straight rebounds. Oh, look at Mike. His face is turning red. Look at him. He's turning purple out there. Oh, he's so mad. Oh, he threw the clipboard. Like, it's a funny thing. But that is something that is impressive over time, to hold a group accountable and to maintain that buy-in. And while, yes, I think having a coachable player as your superstar is like a requirement for that style. There's also plenty of guys who have had coachable superstars and haven't done half of what Mike Malone has done in this league. And so I
Michael.
do think Michael Malone, as I call him. So yeah, we needed to wrap this up like 10 minutes ago. I think you were trying to get us to move along, and I've gone on a 15-minute rant. So I'll let you respond, like put a bow on this, and then we can move into Dion and the boys. So what are guys? I guess your kind of final responses there.
I think Michael is a very good coach who I think can wear on a team. And what I was saying 10 games in, and honestly what I still believe now, is that I think he wears on some of the people in the building. And that's not coming out of nowhere. Like a lot of people report that. So I think
what players besides Calvin
not
Booth?
players necessarily, people in the building.
Calvin Booth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I think that that disagreement does warrant discussion. Like if he's letting that disagreement bleed into what he's doing on the court, that matters. And I think that does happen. Where he's like, Calvin thinks that this guy is good and Calvin's a fucking idiot, so this kid can't be good. I do think there's some of that happening.
That's interesting. I wouldn't go that far. And I think it's all over now. Calvin got that series on HBO. It's number one. There got played by Colin Farrell. Put on all that makeup. So I think Calvin's happy. I think Mike's happy. I think it's all good in Nuggets Nation. So no problems there.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. People talk about you don't get media coverage here like the Lakers, they had the Showtime, but we have the Penguin. So, Christian's cooking for the Penguin out there. So, a young Vince, if you will, for those fans of the HBO, the Penguin.
Yeah. I haven't seen it, so I can't comment. And I was about to say something else about the Nuggets that would have derailed us for another 30 minutes. So let's move on to the Bucks.
All right, let's do it. Buffaloes, they got a big win on the road. Tortillas were thrown.
That was crazy, dude. When the coach came on to the microphone and is like, "Stop throwing tortillas on the field!" I'm like, "Holy shit! Who gave Karen the mic?" And then they show the guy.
Oh, yeah, he was mad.
I'm like, "What is happening? Why do you sound like that when you're yelling into the microphone?"
These guys are all psychopaths, and they can't turn off that voice. But yeah. That was a big win. They were favored in that, but and they kind of refused to put it away after they got down, which is weird because they got down 13-0. But then they scored every time, and then the offense was just like, "Hey, we're not going to try anymore. This game's over." This team, we talked about it in the early season. It felt like the offense was no running game and just big play shots. And all of a sudden, they've kind of adjusted to where the running game is still pretty bad, don't get me wrong, but Shedeur uses legs a little bit more, and they have a much better intermediate to hey, we kind of have a nasty receiving core here. And it's like, just get the ball in playmakers' hands, man, and they'll go get you the yardage. They're big guys. You saw an incredible kind of box out on an end zone throw there from Shedeur. It feels like this offense is pretty good. This defense to me still feels, and I know that they're singing their praises as they obviously, that Texas Tech running back had tons of yards coming in, and they did a really good job handling him. I still think that secondary is insanely suspect, and a lot of it is Shiloh. But I guess when it comes down to it, do you think this team makes the college football playoff?
I do. I think that they do. And it's not necessarily because I really believe in CU. It's just that the Big 12 kind of sucks. And there are so many. I think they're probably going to lose another game, but I don't think it matters. I think that they still could get in, uh, depending on what that loss is and looks like. Their schedule's easy.
They do not play a ranked team the rest of the way. Let's not go so far as to call it easy, though. All right. Utah is coming to town, Ryan.
That's a dub.
Big noon kickoff.
Dub. Go through the next game.
I tend to think that's a W as well. On the road at Kansas. Kansas just upset Iowa State. Kansas has a mobile quarterback. I think that's been problematic for us in the past.
Could be bad.
Like a tough
All right,
trade.
We'll toss it up. Give me the next game.
Then they close at home versus Oklahoma State. Gundy, they've got a lot of boys out there. They're having a down year, but Oklahoma State's going to put up points.
Yeah. Those are their 3 remaining?
Yeah.
Dude, I think they go 3-0.
Yeah.
That's crazy. They're going to if they go through 3-0, there is a really, really good chance that they're in that college football playoff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
it's 12 teams. It's 12 teams, dude.
Yep. The 12 teams is key. And like I said, I think the other key thing is that
they could win the Big 12 and just get in no matter what. Like, they have to get invited if they win the Big 12.
Well, and if they go 3-0 and beat BYU, you are getting invited. I don't think they're beating BYU. Those 26-year-olds are a little too.
Hey, those Mormons can.
But
those Mormons can hit. Let me tell you, all the pent-up sexual frustration, and also some of them have kids. Imagine how hard you would hit somebody right now, Kyle. You have a toddler.
Oh,
if somebody just gave you free reign and you were 24 years old and in the prime athletic shape of your life and had dad strength, imagine how hard you'd be hitting somebody.
I can't imagine it, honestly. It's the amount of times, and part of it is my fault. I did teach Bodie how to do the rock bottom. Or not the rock bottom, the people's elbow, because I think it's funny. But it does mean that there's been a lot more wrestling in my future. And he also will now just sometimes randomly just be trying to reach his hand and smack me as he goes by. And he has just sack tapped me multiple times really hard.
He's on a very good height for that.
I went down and he actually got angry because he felt bad about it, because I was like, oh, man. And it I think he thought I was yelling at him, but really it was just an expression of pain. So you are 100% correct that if I could put that pain on to other people on Saturdays in the prime of my life, then yeah, I would be hitting insanely hard. I'd be like, this is for when Bodie hit me in the penis. And I'd be blowing up the A gap. But I guess, how much do you believe? I still think this team doesn't make it in. I think they blow one of these games, and then I think I think you don't make the Big 12 championship, and then you just don't have the quality.
Just inject it into my veins. I don't care, dude. This is so much fun. If Prime gets into the college football playoff, he's never going to stop talking shit. And I want that in the city. I want that in the state. I have no real allegiance to CU. If anything, I don't really like them that much. But they won a lot of national championships. We grew up
cheering for CU, though.
Yeah, but they also, cross-country me, they won a lot of national championships and would kick our ass. I mean, beat our, truly destroy everybody.
I feel like it's hard to develop a rivalry when someone just beats your ass all the time.
Yeah, no. There was no rivalry.
Not a true,
it was just
what I mean?
Oh, cool. CU's going to win again. It was
nice
brutal.
Guy.
My coach actually gave a pretty infamous interview. Dan, maybe we could find this and cut it in or link it to the podcast. But he gives an interview where he's at the national meet. We're there, where it's the day before the meet. And they ask him something, and it's the year we won the trophy that's actually behind me. we got third, and CU won. And my coach gave an interview and said, "I wish we could give CU the first place trophy tonight and just race for second place tomorrow." And nobody says that shit, right? You're not supposed to say that out loud. You're supposed to believe in your team or whatever.
Right,
but
yeah. Hey, any given Saturday out there. No. He was like, not on their best days. All right.
Yeah. They could all rupture an Achilles tomorrow and we're still racing for second.
They will limp across the finish line ahead of us. Yeah. No, I agree. It's more fun when they're good. It just feels weird to me that we haven't, like, since UCF, it doesn't feel like they've just had a, like, oh, what a beating. Like, that they laid on these teams, and we haven't been playing exactly a murderer's row either. So, like.
No, nothing. Well, I mean, everything that was a flaw is still there, right? Like, I'm not saying that this team is. I think they would get absolutely destroyed by, like, honestly, whoever they saw in the college football playoff.
Like, but there's a chance you could play Alabama in the first round because, like, Alabama's lost a few now. You know what I mean?
Imagine the bloodbath that would exist.
They're 4. Because what it'll be the top 4 get buys, and then so they're 5 and we're 12. Just, hey, what's up there?
Hey, that elephant looks cool. What's that about? You guys been here before? Or,
yeah, first time. Who dis?
I mean,
I guess we can wrap this up.
Well, hold on.
Ahead.
I do want to say I was driving around today listening to local sports radio, which I haven't done in ages, and they just could not stop talking about this quote that Dion gave in a press conference. I guess today, Wednesday, where he was talking about Pat Shurmur being awesome as the offensive coordinator for CU. And he brought up the time that he spent in Denver as the offensive coordinator, which was Drew Lock and Philip Lindsay. And Philip Lindsay's on the fucking radio broadcast while this guy is bringing this up to him. And the host tees it up to for Philip Lindsay to just shit on Pat Shurmur, which he should do because he's a bad offensive coordinator who has done pretty well for CU. But Philip Lindsay handled it well and was like, I think he didn't have a lot of talent. He didn't do me any favors. But it was just like, it's crazy to me that people are talking about the offensive coordinator for the CU football team and it's Pat Shurmur. Like, what is happening? What is the world that we live in where we have an NFL coordinator being the OC for the Buffs? So just enjoy it, and I think we should all be cheering for it with our whole hearts, even if you don't
Dion
really care.
Stays after Shedeur this year?
God, I mean, the cupboard's bare, dude.
He's been absolutely, like, very aggressive of, like, no, I love it here. I'll never coach in the pros. I got to be in college. But
he's shaping young men.
That's right.
So he says.
Yes.
If the Cowboys come knocking, I saw that shit on ESPN this week, and I don't believe any of that, right? Like, I don't believe them. But also, if the Cowboys came knocking, you're really saying no to the Cowboys to stay at the University of Colorado? Like, as Deion fucking Sanders? I don't think so. So, I think that he's back. I think he'll give it a year and see what happens. Because he does have it pretty sweet. Like, he's got a good deal going up there.
He just also has, like, you talk about lucking into generational talent, and, like, he recruited it. I get it, right? But also, Travis Hunter.
He also birthed it.
Yeah, but Travis Hunter, Ryan, is otherworldly. And you can recruit, but I don't know that there's a lot of Travis Hunters out there. Like,
Well, he's reportedly talking to his little brother. Uh,
I hope
but
he's not that much littler. I hope he's 17 if I'm Dion, because I don't know if I want to see a world in which Travis Hunter is not.
the portal changes all this shit though, right? Like if you make the playoff and then you get some donors donating to your NIL fund and then you get like it doesn't work the way that it used to.
For sure.
So
I'm just saying, like, it, even if you get unbelievable talent, it doesn't always work out, right? We've seen highly rated recruits have it not go well, any of that kind of stuff. So I think Dion is a
do you
guy
think
who
he leaves
knows.
this year though?
I think if they make the college football playoff, I think he does. Yeah.
Who's hiring him though?
I mean, I think there's I think, like, what you talk about, what if they call Colin? What if USC says, Lincoln Riley, no thank you. Well, we're going to take Dion. You're not going out to Cali as Dion, taking your talents out there. You're not going to, like, programs that you talk about an NIL fund. You give Dion Oklahoma Sooner money.
I don't
give
think that it
Dion.
works like that. I don't think it's the same way as you're thinking about it. I think Dion himself is the entity. So wherever Dion goes is where the money follows. And I think he recognizes that he has a lot of power over that athletic department. Like if he goes to USC has 10 donors that think they're big shit and think that the program is theirs and they need to live up to this tradition and this tradition and this tradition. There's none of that shit at CU. He doesn't have to deal with any of that stuff. He's the person who's dealing with all of that. So I think that's an underrated part of why I think he would stay at CU and why
Well,
I
Gary
don't think he's
Barnett.
gonna I don't I don't think he's gonna leave for like another college job necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be job opportunities out there. He's going to be in demand. Congrats to him. He deserves it. It's awesome. And like you said, enjoy having fun football while you have it. Because we've seen with the Broncos, like, it can leave quickly and you can be irrelevant.
And not come back for a while.
You can be stuck in the middle. And
the dry spell can be very real.
Man. Hey, don't mention dry spells, all right? The Kelseys get very fired up about that. Now, you're trying to get Jason in trouble. I see what you're doing over there. Speaking of the Kelseys, we have Chiefs-Broncos. The Broncos were doing everything right until they weren't. It was kind of exactly as we described it. We thought it was going to be kind of a mud fight. I took the Broncos plus the points. I predicted them to win, which they should have. But to me, this is more than a story about the blocking. There's been like 20 million Broncos breakdowns of like special teams blocking and how the Chiefs overloaded the side and how it was close earlier and how they should have seen it coming and all of this stuff. Listen, you had 14 points at halftime. You ended the game with 14 points. That's the story of the game. Like, you can't not score in the second half of an NFL game on the road and expect things to go well. Like, people are acting like, this was just the perfect execution the whole time. Like, there was a lot of conservative play calling, not letting Bo cook in the second half that I think was the undoing. I think if I was the Broncos, I'd have come out and I'd have sent a message and tried to call like a flea flicker or something first play and just said, guys, 14 points is not enough. Like we're going to stay aggressive. And I don't care how long we're winning for. Like we're putting pedal to metal here. And just like how the Ravens kept their foot on the throat and just stomped us out last week, that's what we're trying to do here. And that's our mindset. And you could tell in the way that the Broncos played that game that they were like, maybe if we clench our butt cheeks and white knuckle it enough, we can do it. Like, and that mindset is just doesn't give you a lot of room for a team to come up with a pump block or a field goal block and get one over on you schematically. Like, you gave up 16 points to a Chiefs offense at home. You scored 14 in the first half. You should be able to win that game. That game should be 28-16, should be 29-16. You should, stay aggressive. And it felt like there were a lot of calls, a lot more run calls in the second half there where they kind of pulled off the pedal a little bit there. And I think the other thing that it did is it put them in 3rd and long, and you saw a few times, like the Chiefs just out and out blitzed. Like they just all out blitzed, and Bo Nix just was like, well, I'm dead. Like it was awful. And that's where I think you can still see the rookie-ness there of like being like, he just didn't recognize 2 times, like, hey, I don't have enough guys to block this. I either need to burn a timeout here or I need to get a hot route or get something going here to where I can try to give my guy the ball as quick as I can. And I'm going to know that there's not as many back there. So if he makes one miss, he's going to go a long way, right? Like, but tucking the ball, or there was another time he ran backwards quite a bit. That was brutal. So yeah, a tough break here, shall we say, for the Broncos.
It's not a tough break for the bets, though.
Let
me tell you, Kyle, it was not a tough break for the bets.
For some. But what were kind of your takeaways? Because the offense looked competent in the first half, and that was a Chiefs defense that we talked about. Like that's the best unit defense on this Chiefs team now. Like, so to get some big plays, you saw it on we saw him connect deep with Cortland. We saw some play action. We saw some aggressive stuff out of them. And then it wasn't there in the second half. But I'm curious, what was kind of your takeaway from the game? Big picture things that you thought about here.
I think Bo looks good. Like, that I think is the biggest takeaway. And he didn't have like a blow you away game, right? Like he wasn't popping off the page. None of the throws were like, whoa, he did that, crazy, whatever. But to just go into Arrowhead and be competitive with that defense in particular, which again, we talked about how good they've been, I think that does show you that, like, okay, the kid has something. What that is yet to be determined. Like, what the ceiling of that is yet to be determined, but he's got something. And I think, it's the flickers of hope. Like, that should be the title of the season, It's like little things that you can sort of pop up that are good. I don't take anything from the result. Like, the result was bullshit. The Broncos were better for the majority of the game and should have won the game. And, you're always going to be able to point at things. And trust me, I would love giving Sean Payton his fair share of his comeuppance when the Broncos don't perform like they should. But I don't think getting a field goal block like that is going to be like should belong on anybody's particular shoulders. Like, I think that shit just kind of happens, and that's football, and it sucks. And whatever Patrick Mahomes did to the devil is between him and the devil. And honestly, I don't think that you can. It's just a Chiefs win, Sometimes you can't explain it. They've had how many of these in the last decade where it's just, or 5 years, that it's like, how did they just win that game? What happened exactly to make that happen?
when Bo took that sack, and I literally looked at Dan and I was like, now we're not even going to pin him that deep. And sure enough, it was like, we even got a pretty good like punt off, and I was like, they're scoring here. Like, you knew they were going up. I thought they were going to get a touchdown and should have. Honestly, he just missed Kelsey. People don't talk about that like as like, the Broncos just missed an opportunity. Well, the Chiefs had Kelsey wide open for a second touchdown and missed him, sailed it. But Bo Nix, I did want to say the play that honestly, and you know, I don't pretend to be a football genius here and breaking all this stuff down, but like the play that excited me the most was exactly the one that we talked about the previous week, Tony Romo calling him out for, where it was, hey, you put this guy in motion, you saw it was man, you only need a yard, you just bulleted it out to him real quick. And he ran the same play versus the Chiefs, and he bulleted it out immediately. And you were like, oh, that is literally him understanding the speed at which he has to do that. And it was crazy how quick he got it out there. Like, it was almost too quick, but he was like, nope, he was right. Like, that's what that is. And I think that's something that you love to see, and you love to see someone approaching the game from that way. Like, I remember to go, you know, cross sport and kind of take it. I remember Jokic's development. Draymond talked about like how there was a playoffs where he was kind of criticizing in the bubble Jokic's defense and like, hey, he's got to be here. This is what he's got to do. And Draymond said like, Jokic, when he saw him, he was like, hey, man, have you seen, like, I've been trying to do better with that. And Draymond's like, I have seen that, man. Like, so it's not this, like, sensitivity to criticism or sensitivity to being coached or sensitivity to feedback. It's like, yeah, if you think this is right, then it's right. And I'm going to do it, you know? And I think that that's something that was encouraging to me as far as, yes, Bo is more of a polished product because he played in college for a longer time, but it's not like your brain has like stops being able to take in new information because you're 25.
He's a smart
right?
guy. Like he can pick up shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Like there's not as much like physical strength coming in, all that, but like all the quarterbacks we talk about being insanely good. Pat Mahomes has a beer belly. Like,
here's a
Tom Brady was in the later rounds. Like,
here's a broader point for you that I think leads into this a little bit. Like, everybody makes a big deal about these quarterbacks potentially being older now. They've got a fifth year. They've got COVID. Like, all these quarterbacks, sort of the Jaden Daniels who kind of blossomed late and all this shit. Who cares? The whole point, everything that we've seen outside of Patrick Mahomes, which is generational, not real, aka, like, you can't count on that. Everything that we've seen is that you need a quarterback on his rookie deal, essentially, to win a Super Bowl, because you need so much talent around him. So who the fuck cares how old these kids are? Draft him at 28. Like, I don't care. Stay in college forever. You have an NIL. Like, you can make more money in college than you can in your rookie year. So, I don't know. I think that might be a hot take, but I just don't care how old Bo Nix is, because if he's good, it's going to be that first or second contract where we're still hanging on to the dregs of the people that we could sign because he was on a rookie contract. Like, they get too expensive too quick to really build around a quarterback like you used to be able to build a franchise around a quarterback. So I just think that the age thing maybe doesn't matter as much as we want to think that it does. Like, yeah, it's great to have a 21-year-old quarterback until they turn into Dak Prescott.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, in the NFL, it's such a wild sport where you can be MVP like Carson Wentz and be young and you're just out of the league, like, and never played a meaningful thing. It's very, very odd. All right, let's get into this week though. Huge home game for the Broncos. So I was telling Dan, we watched the game together against the Chiefs, and I said, listen, I said, if the Broncos beat the Chiefs, I said, if you'd have told any sane Broncos fan You said you don't get to know the scores of the game, but I'll tell you that the Broncos go 1-1 versus the Ravens and Chiefs. They just said, I don't give a shit if we lose 100-0 to one of these teams. If we beat the other one, love that for us. Like, this is great. It hurts more because you didn't get the one, but I think they said all the right things in the locker room. They're 2-point favorites versus this Falcons team that lost to the Saints. New coach, mantra. He was clogging toilets.
Oh my God, that was amazing. Dude. that was
shit
truly
all over the Dirty Birds.
that was one of the. It has to be an all-time coaching introduction to the press. I was listening to the Athletic podcast, and the guys summed it up so perfectly because they were just like, you can tell that person has only been in locker rooms with men for the last 20 years where they feel just perfectly comfortable sharing about the shit that they took in the locker room, clogging it. Like, it's just, and I can relate to that as a person who spent a lot of time in locker rooms where, like, sometimes
I think he was bragging about it, to be
that
honest.
barrier
I
goes
think
down.
he thought that, like, when he was telling that story, he was like, this is cool. I'm going to tell him about my huge poop.
No, for sure.
Yeah. But the Falcons, this is a team that's been like up and down. They've beaten the Eagles. They too played the Chiefs insanely close. They have all this talent on offense, but it doesn't necessarily amount to like wild points. To me, this feels like a pretty good matchup for the Broncos. As far as we're an unbelievable team at pressuring a quarterback, and Kirk Cousins turns into a pumpkin if you pressure him. And also, the Atlanta Falcons can't get pressure for anything. And so you have a rookie quarterback at home who's going to get to sit back there and survey the field. That feels like a good thing to me. But the only hesitation I have is if you just said, hey, one team has Kyle Pitts, they have Drake London, they have Bijan Robinson, and the other team has Estime, Cortland Sutton, and whatever tight end we're going to start that week. Like, the talent discrepancy there is kind of insane. As far as what that looks like. But we have Surtain for London. And you saw it. By the way, I forgot to mention this. Hopkins, I love you because I have rewatched that HBO Hard Knocks where you say you fear God, and then you hurt that guy at practice and then talk shit about hurting his knee. In a rep, maybe 100 times. It's awesome.
However, God. I fear God.
Yeah, I fear God, homie. Fear God.
I fear God, homie.
Yeah, that's a great clip. But you sitting there and trying to like stare down Pat Surtain when you have one catch against him the whole game. What a pussy. Shut up. I hate the Chiefs. I hate it. I can't wait until you guys have nothing to play for late in the season and we beat your ass here in the mile. All right. I can't wait till you run out Chad Henne and Alex Smith and we run you over. All right. But so we do have Surtain for that. Pitts to me feels like he could be a problem. But in theory, that's why he was drafted so high and he hasn't necessarily lived up to that. To me, this all comes down to pressure. If you can get pressure on Kirk Cousins and stop Bijan Robinson from running, I think Kirk will throw you a few, and I think that this is a good matchup. If you can't do that, though, I think this Falcons team has a lot of weapons, and I don't think you want to see Bijan or Pitts specifically in space versus our linebackers or safeties. Because I think it'll be a pretty long day, as we saw with the Ravens. So how do you break down this game? And What are kind of your themes that you're looking at for this game?
Yeah, I think the defense is definitely going to have to show up here. The Falcons have proven to be explosive. If you let them into their zone, into that Kanye zone, like they've been proven to be very explosive. So I do trust our defense to do that, and for the reasons you highlighted, right? Like I think we can get Kirk off his spot. He's been a little bit better when he's been moving recently on that Achilles, but he's still not great. Like he's much better when he's just standing back there. Um, so I don't really understand why we're favored. I do for sure because our defense is that good and they kind of deserve that respect. But the offense is so bad that I think it's why this line is 2.5, right? It's telling you that this is basically home field. And that's probably fair. And you'll see in my best bets that sort of more of it's why I'm being a little coy here, more of why I feel this way. I do like what you said, and I actually looked it up while you were talking about the Kirk Cousins throwing you a couple. I do think that that's going to happen. Like I think that he will throw at least one. It's only minus 125 to for him to throw a pick, and I really like that. That might show up in a best bet of mine. I haven't decided yet, but that is good value for the people out there. So, and I do expect that um, one of these Broncos receivers is going to have a big day. I'm not sure who it is. Bo seems to kind of find that matchup and that player that he likes within the rhythm of the game and even the drive, and will continue to go to that person. So I'm just trying to sort of figure out who I think that's going to be, and then I might ladder that up. Maybe I'll have Dan post that on Threads on Sunday before the game, but um, I do anticipate somebody is going to have a big day in the passing uh, game for the Broncos. Whether that leads to a victory or not, I don't know. I think it's going to be a close game. I do think that the Broncos will win, but I think it's going to be a close game.
Yeah. I don't think I think both these teams are very mediocre. I think it also comes down to like this game is more important for the Broncos than it is the Falcons. The Falcons are in that dog shit South. And so if they lose this game, whatever it is, if you get to 6 wins in that division, you
You
might be
just
there.
have to win the games within your division to make sure you win the
Yeah.
tiebreaker. Like, who cares?
Yeah. You're going to be fine out there. Whereas like the Broncos now, you need this game. Like you have to like you have a Bengals matchup looming at the end of the season that if the Bengals are in it, that could be for a playoff spot, right? Like you still have to play the Chargers again. The Chiefs, we mentioned it, it's close to the end. They probably won't be playing guys, but you can't count on that. Like this is a really, really important game for if you're going to
You
try to
can't
sneak
count
into the
on winning
playoffs.
that game.
Right.
Like, there's nothing that those Chiefs backups would rather do than keep the Broncos' ass out of the playoffs. So,
Listen, they might want to do that very badly, but they all suck. So
yeah,
they
they
won't
are
do
not a
that.
deep team. Yeah, that's fair.
They are yeah. All right. I final score here. I am going to go Broncos 17, Falcons 21. I just have a feeling.
Oh,
I just have a feeling. I can't shake it that there's a little too much talent on that offensive side of the ball and that we're not going to be able to knock Kirk off his spots enough.
that feels very right to me. What'd you say, 21-17?
17, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go 24-14. Falcons, just to be different, honestly. I kind of wanted to say 24-17, but then I felt like I was copying you. So, yeah, we've both got the Falcons winning here.
Man, this is a bummer. I will be cheering for the Broncos so hard.
Yeah.
Hope I'm incorrect, but
my fantasy team will actually kind of be cheering against them because I have Kirk and Darnell Mooney. So
this will be an interesting, different challenge for Riley Moss as well because Mooney is a burner.
He's so fast, dude.
Moss has done really well against like those physical, like down the sideline guys, but he's gonna get. This is one of those where like, hey, you have to be smart. You have to understand. They're going to try to run you into pick plays. They're going to try to pick you off 5 yards off the line of scrimmage. They're going to try to do all the little
I think
stuff
he's going to get torched at least once and then have probably like a ridiculous interception.
Yeah. I mean, this comes down to, we talked about flickers of hope. We talked about that, but I don't think this Broncos team can consistently put up over 20 points. And if you can't put up over 20 points, I don't think you can beat the Falcons. I should mention the Broncos did absolutely beat the piss out of the Saints, and the Falcons just lost to that team. But they got coach clogged the toilet, so that's a totally different operation there.
Literally. I think he reset the whole building when he clogged that toilet.
You couldn't be more right. All right. So let's get into our best bets of the week. Ryan absolutely used witchcraft last week. He went 1-2, but hit a plus 600 bet. So he gained in the competition. Meanwhile, I went 2-1 and should have been 3-0 if Jake Moody could make a field goal out there for the 49ers. By the way, we'll get more into, don't you worry, these actual good teams because, we'll talk about them during the playoffs when the Broncos are knocked out of this. But there is not a team that when you watch them, you're like, every time you look at the 49ers in your 4-pack, you're like, this offense looks pretty good. Like they've been moving the ball. They're getting like 4 yards a pop and then they're getting some explosive plays. And then you look up at the end of the game and they have like 23 points. And you're like, how the shit? I feel like they moved the ball all the time.
They're my favorite.
That they are literally a top 6 team except for their special teams. Their special teams are so god awful that it's there, and the red zone efficiency has obviously not been good because you could just avoid bringing Moody out if you would score a touchdown. But
they're one of my favorite. I love a live drive prop, and they're one of my favorite field goal attempt. Field goal attempt is basically the only bet I make anymore because teams are kicking it. This is great betting advice before we get into our actual bets. This is the most live betting or the best live betting thing I've learned this year. These kickers are so good now that they're kicking 50, 60 yarders. 55 yarder is not a long field goal anymore. So you watch the punt. The punt goes to the 35, 40-yard line. I'm immediately taking field goal attempt because you literally need one first down and you're in field goal range. And, sometimes if you're feeling frisky, you can take a field goal missed, which is like a plus 1,100 bet. Sometimes you'll get a field goal attempt when that punt happens at plus 350 or plus 400. I'm not kidding you. That is insane value. So just a little tip out there for the betting public.
Pro tip from Mr. 600 himself. You'll love to see it. All right. I'm going to get us going here. I have said I kind of am getting off this Commanders train. It's Thursday, so it'll be games should be being played tonight, probably by the time you're listening to this. But Philly Thursday night at home, -3.5. Heartbreaking game for the Commanders. Also, really physical Steelers team, and I just think that this Philly team is a little too healthy. Both of the tackles for Washington is banged up. Marshawn Lattimore also still might not play. this game. Just feels like this is an Eagles kind of this to me feels like how whenever the Bears would kind of be coming up there a little bit and then they'd play the Packers and the Packers would just slap them down. Just like, nah, you're not actually good. Shut up. Get back to your room. Get back in the closet, Harry. And that's what it feels like to me. This is a get back in the closet, Harry. Sort of game. Lock
That's a
in the
Harry
room.
Potter reference there, not not some ambiguous Harry going back in the closet. Just for those kids out there that might not know about Harry Potter, but
avoiding a lawsuit from the royal family. Wise, Ryan. But yeah, that's my first pick. I'm going to Thursday night. I like it.
I really like that pick a lot. I think that the Eagles are undervalued at this point. They've been playing really well the last couple weeks, and I also am on board with the C words. Not just this week, but I think fading them for the rest of the season is probably a good idea. Yeah. Jaden Daniels is so much fun. I feel like I should be taking a victory lap because I did say that they are probably in the preseason pod. I said that they're probably the most fun team in the NFL, and they have proven to be so far. And I think this game will be fun, but I think it probably ends up being a 10-point, like the score doesn't show how fun the game was sort of game.
Yeah.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, get in there, buddy.
All right. I've been going mostly Broncos bets recently, which I don't think is wrong. Know your audience and such. But I am going to venture outside a little bit for this bet, and I'm going to take a teaser. The teasers have been dead for most of the year outside of last week. And I'm going to take the Chiefs up from +2 to +8.
Yeah.
Against the Bills. There's no way they lose by more than a touchdown, right? Like,
feels like the Bills are incapable of beating anyone by more than a touchdown right now, even if they play their best game. This version Chiefs of the Bills is a ground and pound affair.
Yeah. And then I'm going to take the Falcons up to +8.5. Because back to your point, like even if the Broncos win this game, that game is 24-17. Like it's not going to be – we're not blowing anybody out, and we're not stopping anybody consistently enough to do that. So I feel pretty good about that. A 6-point teaser, it's -120. It's a little bit, it's not square in that most people don't think about teasing people up like that.
Right.
But it's a teaser, so there's inherent risk there.
Yeah. I like it. Obviously, both of us picked the Falcons to win outright, so I think you're getting great value there. And I've
a great
watched a lot of
hedge
Chiefs
for Broncos
and a lot of
fans
Bills
too. It's a great emotional hedge for Broncos fans too, to be like, well, we're not going to lose the game, but we're probably not going to blow them out either. But then if you do end up losing the game, you still win the bet. So
you're not wrong there. You're not wrong. All right, now I am going to go to the well here. I'm taking Russ Wilson and the Steelers. I am going to take them +152 on the money line here. An interesting stat between Tomlin and Harbaugh: whichever team is favored loses the game 70% of the time. It's the dumbest stat in sports, but it's true. And so I think this is absolutely this isn't the same like physical Ravens defense. We talked about it. They give up big plays. What does Russ do? He's going to throw moon balls. This is probably my riskiest one, just because of the Russell Wilson factor. Like, it's not like Russ has had some nice throws, but it's still Russ. Like, they are absolutely reliant upon big plays and him getting outside of the pocket sometimes to like move the play along and then dump it off to a running back. Like, it's not a altogether different offense than what we saw the Broncos use last year. They just have George Pickens.
This is Scheme Lord Mike Tomlin at his finest.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I don't hate the pick.
So it just feels like the Steelers team, they know how to play Lamar. They're not going to be caught off by him.
Number?
They've done a good job. It's +3, but I got it at +152 because I'm taking the money line.
It's +145 on DraftKings, so good shopping the line too.
Yeah. Big sponsor of the pod, FanDuel.
Yeah. Big sponsor.
Big sponsor.
Huge. Although we would take matching offers.
Yep. We're open. We're open to that.
Send us an email.
Yeah.
All right. My second one, I'm going to go back to the Broncos game. I'm going to go to Darnell Mooney. And I'm going to take over longest reception, 21.5. So I think he's just going to have a bomb here. It's -110. I just feel very confident in this. He's their big play threat. He essentially only runs go routes. So in those little slants.
I think the crosser is what gets you home here. I think there is absolutely a time where we are going to lose discipline or you lose him.
And honestly, 22 yards is not that much. There's also a little pro tip for the betting public. There's a market that you can get live on a drive for them to have a 20-plus yard play. And if you see a defense being a little civvy, that's a very good bet.
Good market to get involved in. Yeah. I like it. Like I said, I think there's multiple ways to get home there. It's not just the deep ball. It's those little crossers that he's been very successful at taking a long way this season as well.
He could take a screen 22 yards.
Yeah. My last one is another underdog money line. Give me Jameis Winston, Wilson as well. Jameis Winston, he's +1.5. I'm going to take the money line, -108. The Cleveland Browns at the Saints. After an interim coach gets their first victory, often the team, it's like backup quarterbacks. Like, then a team sees film on you, sees what you're going to try to do, and goes, oh, okay, you're going to do this, but he also kind of sucks. Yeah, and I think this is low-key a little bit of a revenge spot for Jameis. I think that this Cleveland team is going to get a lot of pressure on Derek Carr. You talk about another guy who does not do well with pressure. I think this Cleveland team does that, and I think this is bad news bears for this Saints team that is really, really awful. I actually think this should be switched. Like, even as bad as Cleveland's been, I think the Saints team is truly, truly awful. And just talent-wise here, the discrepancy is unbelievable. So, yeah, give me the Browns money line -108. Another one, I'll give you an honorable mention. I looked pretty hard at the Colts. At the Jets, getting 3.5. This Jets team is so bad.
Do we know
I just can't
Richardson
it's
going to
be
play?
Richardson, and that's why I just can't do it. Absolutely, he gives them an extra threat with his legs, and like there's a little step back, and there's all that, but like. And there's like all this stuff where like McAfee
because we're going to the Colts game too. I really want him to look awesome in the next 3 weeks, so that game is really exciting, and like we have a lot to play for, and we're playing this fun rookie versus rookie. Like it could be a really fun game that we're going to. But
yeah, I mean, all of it is the Colts are getting called out by everyone. Oh, what a dysfunctional play! We had a terrible. Guys don't try hard, all this kind of stuff. Feels like this is a pride game, and it feels like the Jets have old sleepy Aaron at the helm, and I don't think he inspires confidence in the boys. I'll put it that way. And so that was one of our best preseason things. You talked about our preseason. You were higher on the Commanders, I think, than most preseason, but also we were both like, hey, we get that the Jets have an absolute crap ton of talent. We're not betting on this fucking 50-year-old weirdo who is eating dirt and sniffing
He sucks,
his
dude.
own pee.
There's
on the sideline. Like, there's nothing worse than losing with a guy who's just like, all right, guys, we need to change our chakras in here. Everybody piss in this cup, and we'll all drink it as one. Like, what the fuck? Can we just lose in peace and go the fuck home, Aaron? Leave us alone. You know what, guys? Everybody's persecuting me out here, too. Aaron, shut the fuck up. Jesus, man. Like, nah, guys, do you guys want to come on and drink our pee on the McAfee show? Shut the fuck up, Aaron. So I looked hard at that, but Anthony Richardson scared me away. That's the point of that story. What's your third pick, Ryan?
Is Flacco healthy? Can he play for the Colts again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They could just, switch back and forth in perpetuity. Just, you suck too. Back to the old guy.
Yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, that's why it's honorable mention, right? To be clear, I have the Cleveland.
Yeah, well, I didn't love either of those two. If I'm being honest,
you don't trust Jameis?
I don't love betting on the Browns either. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why
I hope you're eating those dubs.
Listen, 3-0 week incoming. What's your plus 800 horseshoe that you're about to pull out of your ass to go 1-2 and stretch your lead even further?
No, I'm gonna go 3-0 and beat your ass the old-fashioned way this week.
Well, at least it's something new.
Like I have been previously throughout these weeks, just beating that ass. I am gonna go back to the well. One of my favorite bets. Bo Nix over 11.5 as his longest rush. It's -110. It's 11.5. This used to be 9.5 back in the day, if you remember. But I'm going to go back to the well, and it's going to hit. It didn't hit last week, but it's going to hit this week. Sometimes when you have a good bet and you don't hit it, you immediately want to go off of it, right? Like, oh, this is stupid. I shouldn't be doing this. It worked, and now they've caught up. Nah, that's the week you gotta stay to your discipline.
Bo Nix couldn't run because we were running gadget plays for Marvin Mims to run 3 yards and out of bounds. So hopefully the Mims package doesn't.
I actually think that the at-home thing is a piece here too.
Yeah.
So I have stored that away in my little noggin.
Yeah. I also do think the Chiefs, they played him like, hey, we're not letting you get out of this. Yeah, we're not letting you get out of here. Like, we don't trust your arm. Yeah, we're not letting you 30-yard.
Yeah, we're going to create a nice little pocket for you here, buddy. We're going to keep you right in there.
Yeah. So something to keep in mind, but obviously not the same level of pass rushers.
No, I do not think
the Falcons.
They're going to be as good. So I anticipate some undisciplined lanes opening up that Bo Nix can walk through for 12 yards.
I like it. All right. Well, thank you to everyone for listening to the podcast. It was a long one. We went a little long here, Ryan, but I think there's a lot of good info there. I think it was a time well spent if you spent it with the
Maybe
podcast.
We should start doing this more. Maybe this is what the people want. A little looser. We've been trying to be so tight, you know?
We'll reflect and get your feedback there. But thank you to producer Dan for producing this. Go Broncos.
Woody, let me know.
Go see you. And go Nuggets. And congrats to the Avs beating the Kings tonight. Peace.
Bye.
Bluecifer Brothers is a Crab Shell Media podcast.